Okay, so another question that has arisen is, what do I use for fuel? Well, in the UK we have two types of fuel, petrol that is. So my trimmers, my lawnmowers, my hedge trimmers, all the stuff that I use for garden maintenance are petrol driven. I haven't yet moved to battery. I have personal reasons for that. I think that, well, I'll tell you. Effectively, yes, we know that fossil fuels are running out, and we know that they're polluting the environment, or so they say. But batteries, the carbon footprint on producing one single battery is immense. It's immense. And it's just another form of raping the earth and killing it off. So I'd rather go for old technology, which I know and trust. Not only that, I also can maintain and repair, because I understand my small engines, big engines, I maintain all my cars, that sort of stuff. So I don't work on diesel. I don't understand it. I don't want to get to know it. I don't like diesel. Petrol, 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 petrol. All right, combustibles. But I'm going off track. So another question I've had was as to what types of fuels do I use. So we have two types of fuel here as far as petrol is concerned, or gas in America, gasoline. We have what they call E5 and E10. They slowly starting to phase out the E5 because of the silicon content, and they're going for a more methanol-based E10 because it's where I live particularly, but the UK as a whole, there's still quite a few old cars knocking about. Oh, sorry, I've got the tremors today. I'm cold and I'm not feeling too well, so the shakes is there. Anyway, so we have E5, E10. E5's being phased out over a gradual period, and everything's moving to E10, which means that you then have to upgrade your equipment to suit. But everything I have is two-stroke, excepting for the lawnmower, which is a four-stroke. So straight in, straight out. Luckily, it is E10 compatible, so it doesn't really matter what fuel I use in there. If I do happen to mix fuel, depending on what the garage has, I tend to mix the two together. So I always carry a surplus stock, jerry cans in my lockup, in a safe, aerated area away from my home and any buildings and so forth, in case of heat explosions or whatever, or gas. So when I get to a situation where I am unable to get E10 or E5, either, I then have a little surplus of stock and I mix the two together and I go for a 50-50 ratio. So I guess it makes it E7, who knows. Anyway, it seems to work. It hasn't clogged up, it hasn't fouled my carburetors, etc., etc. That's something that I will address if it ever comes up, but I doubt it will come up because, as I said, I've been using this machine for so long, and I've been doing the gasoline or fuel mix as I described for such a long time that it still goes like a bomb. When it comes to the trimmers, depending on the make that I have, some of them are a 40-1, some of them are a 50-1, and some of them are a 25-1. It just depends on what I'm using on the day. And all that really means is taking the fuel that I've got, mixing it to roughly about a 7, something like that, say E7, and then topping up with two-stroke oil to the recommendation per manufacturer spec. So the only reason why you add oil to your petrol is for lubrication effectively. They are designed to run dry, so there's no water coolants, because if you started adding radiators and things like that, and fans and electrics, the thing just gets too heavy to handle. They're small engines, they're not designed for that type of work. So you use two-stroke, which is an oil-based, and so the ones I'm using at the moment, it's a Titan. It's a cheap make, but I tell you what, it's one of the best trimmers I've ever had. I've had steel, and for what you pay for a steel and what I paid for the Titan, it's miles apart. In fact, I've actually had to I've been down to have them serviced before. It's a little Chinese knockoff. The carburetors are dead cheap. They're less than £10. I'm not sure what that is in dollars, and but that doesn't matter. They're less than £10, and they're easy to buy the carbs, and those are the things that normally foul up: carbs and the flame arresters. And the way it works in the weather that I work, a flame arrestor is not really that important. You can remove it because you're not going to set fire to anything that's wet, potentially. Also, so effectively, the strimmer I'm using right now is a 42 one, and yeah, I tend to make it a little bit more rich. So now and again, you might see some smoke. I like to keep my stuff lubricated; it lasts longer. So that answers the second question. The type of fuel I use is anything between E10 and E5. I mix the two together. In my mind, that makes an E7, and the E7 I use, which is slightly more silicon than E10, but less silicon than E5, and then I add the oils accordingly, and I always add just a wee touch more. Then I need to let it burn a bit rich, and then make sure that I service it regularly. By servicing it regularly, I mean I literally take this thing apart once a week, clean it up, everything, pistons, polish the lot, put it back together. If I find I've got pitting on the piston, that's when I start looking ahead to either replace the piston or replace the engine, because they're so cheap. They're so cheap. The difference between like a brand name like Stihl and what I'm using right now is the Stihl will cost me £600, and this little machine will cost me 115. And the amount of work and income I can generate from it pays for it 1,000 times more than the Stihl would before that breaks down, because they were roughly the same lifespan. And I could literally buy 5 little machines and do 50 times more work with a cheap machine than to buy one machine and then let it burn out, and the repair costs are astronomical because it's a branded name. So hopefully that answers your questions. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell. This old man needs to go freelance and absolutely do everything for free, but I can only do that with your help. So thanks guys, later, ciao.